Both of these photos were taken 5 months apart, the leanest I've ever been at 6% body fat, but exactly 175 pounds. I was at a level of leanness most people can only dream of. But here's the truth, in the time between both of these photos I felt physically and mentally awful, and I wouldn't recommend anyone living like this, not even for a minute longer than necessary. Staying shredded is the dream, right? Abs all year round, veins popping, that cover model look in every photo, but what if I told you this isn't just unsustainable, it's not actually even what you really want? Let's be honest, we've all seen it, thumbnails with shredded physiques, Instagram reels showing razor sharp abs, fitness influencers saying this is how I stay lean all year by eating a certain way. We see these images and assume that this must be what peak health looks like. This must be how confidence feels. But what you're actually seeing is someone's highlight reel. It's not their reality. And if you want me to help you change your reality and get to a healthy and sustainable body fat, then check out the offer below this video. Now, getting shredded is one thing, and honestly, if it's something you really want to do, I do encourage everybody to try it at least once. It's like climbing Mount Everest or training for an ultramarathon. It's brutal, it can be extreme, but it can teach you a lot about yourself, and it displays a true sense of delayed gratification, emotional regulation, and sacrifice. For me, this looked like 7 months of strict dieting, averaging 15 to 20,000 steps a day on top of lifting 4 to 5 times a week, drinking virtually no alcohol, maybe 2 or 3 times during that whole 7-month period, rarely eating out, and for a very long time eating under 9 calories per pound of body weight. That basically just meant I was eating vegetables and protein and nothing much else. And none of this was negotiable, it's just what's required. There are things that most people have to endure to get very lean. The start was fine. Honestly, I felt better going from 20% down to 15%. I cut alcohol, I cleaned up my diet, I went outside more, I felt sharper, lighter, healthier. That's the sweet spot for most people. But body fat and well-being, they're not linear. They're like an inverted U. After about 12 to 15% body fat, things start to take a turn, and the pros start slowly getting outweighed by the cons. From 15% on, it was feeling like my legs were constantly heavy, broken sleep, waking up cold, low libido, more irritability and reactivity, constant thoughts about food, and even binge eating episodes. I felt socially disconnected. I was going to parties, smiling, nodding, but in my head I was thinking about how many calories were in this chicken skewer. I remember even at one point chewing my fish oil capsules at one point because I was that hungry, and I thought this was really weird until I spoke to another natural bodybuilder, Brandon Kempter, who said he did exactly the same thing. That's when it hit me. This wasn't discipline anymore. This was ultimate survival mode. Now, I'd done this before. I'd gotten shredded for bodybuilding shows in my 20s multiple times. There was a purpose. I'm not some sort of masochist. But this was the first time that I actually tried to maintain or sustain it for a period of time. And that was worse than any diet. Because once you achieve the goal and you get to your end destination, you're just living in the aftermath. It's almost like the adrenaline when someone gets shot or in a car crash and it wears off. You really start to feel it. You're still walking 20,000 steps a day, you're still tracking everything, you're still hungry, you're still cold, but now there's no finish line. There's no proverbial light at the end of the tunnel, and your body fights back both physically and mentally. Hunger spikes, testosterone drops, and your mood just seems constantly to suck. It's like your system is yelling at you to get back to a healthy body fat level. And there's even research on this with this one 2013 study showing how a natural bodybuilder tanked his testosterone by getting really, really lean. By the end of the diet, he had levels that were considered low for even an 80-year-old man. This is something that you just cannot escape if you get super lean without the use of steroids. I remember the very first time I got my body fat to sub 10%. I was 21 years old, coincidentally the same year as that last study I just mentioned came out. I wasn't really feeling my normal self, and my mother brought me to the doctor, who said that my testosterone was really low and that if it didn't increase, she was going to give me testosterone replacement therapy. Luckily, after I increased in body fat, a couple months passed, my testosterone came back to normal, much like the bodybuilder in the study. Being this lean just actively harms your health. It's not just tiredness, hunger, and mood issues, but I actually started to experience muscle wastage. If you look at these two photos side by side, even though I was still trying my best in the gym, eating protein and prioritizing my body composition goals, I lost muscle, and people who had met me months previously mentioned it to me afterwards. Now, I didn't lose a significant amount, but bear in mind that I was trying to do everything I can not to lose muscle. See, testosterone is an anabolic hormone, and after all, when it's on the floor, it's no surprise that your strength and muscle mass will decrease. And all these side effects weren't just a result of a calorie deficit, I was maintaining my body weight. But when you get to such a low body fat level, everything starts to shut down. It's like your body becomes the iPhone on 1% battery. The apps slow down, the screen light dims, and it switches to battery saver mode. It's technically still functioning, but it's just trying to survive. Not to sound extremely far-fetched, but many of the things that I experienced were similar to what people in the Minnesota starvation experiment experienced. This was a World War II study where people who didn't want to go to war but still serve their country were essentially starved for 6 months to see what would happen, with one man even cutting off his own finger, reportedly due to the mental side effects. Now luckily for me, I wasn't being forced to stay this lean, so I wasn't in risk of cutting off my own finger, but I did notice some of the mental aspects that those people had experienced. Now besides the mood and irritability due to the low testosterone and constant hunger, I became more dissatisfied with how I looked. Essentially, I started to develop mild body dysmorphia. Of course, I objectively looked better, but because my whole day and as a result my whole identity revolved around staying lean, my sense of worth hinged on whether I looked good or not that day. This is very common with those who are fitness models or who get paid to look a certain way because their body is essentially the thing that brings them worth. Body dysmorphia isn't related to how fat you are, it's related to how important you think looking good is and how much of yourself you invest to get or sustain that look. Over-indexing any one area of your life to derive your self-worth from can be a very fragile place to be in, and it's almost impossible not to do that when you get really lean because of what's required to get and maintain that level of leanness. And if things don't go to plan on any given day, it can be disastrous. Think of it like a stock portfolio. If you have all your investments spread across out the whole index funds, if one company tanks, then it's not the end of the world. But if you have 100% of your portfolio in Tesla and it nosedives, that's a nightmare. I would semi-frequently binge because of just starving all the time, and of course that would lead to water weight gain for a few days and, as a result, being majorly stressed. Now, it sounds crazy that I was doing this given all the negative consequences, but essentially I had won so many bodybuilding shows that I kept qualifying for bigger and bigger shows that kept me in this level of leanness for months on end. But for 99% of people, although it may look good and it may seem like the pinnacle of health and performance, it's really not. Just because you have the mental fortitude to do so, it doesn't make it something you should necessarily aim for. The exact body fat percentage that's going to be perfect for you will really depend on what you are willing to sacrifice. And if you check out this video here, that will give you some more insights.